A woman I'll call Sandra, teacher, 58, worked her whole career in Western Sydney, sold her 3-bedroom house in Blacktown last year, cleared $890,000 after fees and capital gains tax, and put most of it into a 2-bedroom home in the Southern Highlands for $780,000. She owns it outright. She has $110,000 left, and most nights she lies awake wondering if she made the right call. She probably did, but only because she happened to pick the right town. The people who make that move and regret it follow the magazine spread, the weekend supplement, the hidden gem article written by someone who passed through for 2 nights, and they end up somewhere beautiful but broken. No doctors, no jobs for their adult kids, a house that won't move when they need it to. This video is the one Sandra should have watched first. 8 NSW's town. Real data from CoreLogic, PropTrack, and the NSW Valuer General's 2025 report, and the honest version of what each one actually delivers. Sydney's median house price now clears $1.1 million according to Cotality data from early 2026, which sounds alarming unless you've spent 2 decades building equity in a market like that, because then it reads like an exit opportunity. Regional NSWs recorded a 3% rise in residential land values through 2025, but that average hides an enormous range. Some towns are accelerating, some still haven't priced in what they actually offer. A handful have already moved past the point where the numbers make sense. The people who relocate well do it once. With research, here are the 8 towns worth a real look. 3.5 hours west of Sydney, sitting in a valley that turns the colour of old gold in late afternoon, Mudgee has a population of around 11,000 people. A main street with functioning restaurants rather than just a servo and a pub, and over 40 wineries within 20 minutes of the town centre. Most people treat it as a weekend destination. Wine, a long lunch, drive home Sunday afternoon, and that surface-level familiarity is exactly why the price still makes sense. The median house price in Mudgee runs around $720,000 based on CoreLogic data tracked through late 2025, and that's not buying a unit on a shared driveway. That's a proper 4-bedroom home on a real block, the kind that would sit at $1.5 million in a comparable lifestyle suburb of Sydney and still come without the view. Consider what the numbers actually look like if you sell a modest home in Penrith. Median, roughly $870,000 at current value, clear $700,000 after costs, and buy in Mudgee for $680,000. The mortgage disappears entirely. Weekly expenses fall because the commute doesn't exist anymore. If you hold the property as an investment rather than a residence, the rental yield sits around 4.7% on recent listings data, meaning the asset generates income rather than consuming it. What makes Mudgee genuinely resilient is the diversification of its economy. A hospital, a TAFE, a strong school sector, and a tourism economy that sustains the main street across all 12 months of the year means the town doesn't depend on a single employer keeping the lights on. And the NSW Valuer General's 2025 report flagged continued strong demand across Western NSW residential markets, noting what they called a suspected trend of people moving west. That $720,000 median doesn't hold still indefinitely. The buyers tracking that official language are already arriving. Where Mudgee makes the lifestyle argument, Goulburn makes the pragmatic one, and right now the pragmatic argument might be the harder one to ignore. 2 hours southwest of Sydney on the Hume Highway, Goulburn has operated as a functioning service centre for 150 years, which is the structural reason it holds up where newer regional towns sometimes don't. The hospital is real, the law courts run, the railway line still carries passengers. The commercial main street has enough foot traffic to keep local businesses alive, and that continuity matters enormously when you're thinking about living somewhere rather than visiting it. The median house price sits at approximately $608,000, according to data tracked to December 2025, making it the most affordable, genuine infrastructure town on this entire list. And that's before you register what's happened to values over the past 5 years. According to analysis published by Loan Market in late 2025, Goulburn's house values surged nearly 57% across that period, outpacing a significant portion of metropolitan markets, while the price base remained low enough to still represent real value for buyers arriving now. Victorian and Edwardian streetscapes line the town centre in a way that signals someone cared about building this place properly, and the care has held. From Goulburn, Sydney sits an hour and a half away, and Canberra sits an hour in the other direction. And for retirees whose adult children have scattered across both cities, that geography stops being a compromise and starts being an actual advantage. The honest caveat is the one nobody mentions in the listing. Goulburn winters are serious. Not bring a jumper serious, frost on the car, ice on the road serious. The kind that catches people who've spent their whole lives within 10 kilometres of the coast completely off guard. The town is right. The climate requires an honest conversation with yourself first. 4.5 hours south of Sydney, past the point where the highway runs out of ambition and the landscape becomes farm tracks, descending through eucalypt forest toward beaches that look invented. Bega sits as a working town in the way that word actually means something. People say good morning at the servo because they know you. The population in the town proper runs around 5,000. with the broader Bega Valley show housing closer to 35,000 people across a stretch of country that includes some of the cleanest coastal access remaining in New South Wales. The median house price in Bega comes in around $620,000, and current listings show that buying a 3 or 4 bedroom home with a garden, a shed, and enough space to breathe is entirely achievable at that figure, which is the kind of space that stopped existing in Sydney under $1 million several years ago. Rental vacancy rates across the Bega Valley are running between 1% and 1.5% according to recent South Coast market reporting. I'm meaning ownership here carries genuine security. If circumstances change and you need the asset to generate income, tenants are not a problem you'll face. The Bega Valley sits directly alongside some of the most sought-after coastal real estate in NSW, Merimbula, Eden, Tathra, without yet carrying the premium those names command. And recent infrastructure upgrades at Eden's port and Merimbula's tourism facilities are flagged in current market analysis as factors expected to support long-term regional demand. None of that has fully priced into Bega yet. The buyers from Canberra and Melbourne who've already found this market are arriving with capital city equity behind them, and the $620,000 median is not sitting still the way it was 2 years ago. 30 minutes inland from Coffs Harbour and folded into the Bellinger River Valley, with subtropical rainforest climbing the ridges on either side, Bellingen carries a reputation as a creative community, an arts town, the kind of place with a jazz festival and a farmer's market and an independent spirit that tends to either suit you completely or confuse you. That reputation is accurate, and it's also incomplete because what it doesn't tell you is that the median house price here runs around $869,000, a significant figure for a town of 3,000 people, and the reason for it is straightforward. The people who move to Bellingen don't leave. Supply stays compressed. The lifestyle is genuinely distinct rather than manufactured, and the market reflects that consistently. For a particular kind of retiree, the one who wants a river to walk beside on a Tuesday, live music on a weekend, up a community that has opinions about things, Bellingen isn't the compromise position, it's the actual destination. The thing to go in understanding clearly is that health services sit in Coffs Harbour 30 minutes away by road, and as medical needs increase with age, that 30 minutes becomes a regular part of the calendar rather than an occasional inconvenience. Know that before the contract is signed, what the price and the reputation both obscure is the valley itself. The drive between Bellingen and the coast ranks among the most quietly beautiful in New South Wales. And that particular thing doesn't appear on a spreadsheet anywhere. It shows up in the Tuesday morning walk and keeps showing up every day you live there. Bowral is the one everyone already knows, so the honest version of it can be delivered quickly. 90 minutes from Sydney in the Southern Highland, autumn foliage lining every decent street, boutique retail, the Bradman Museum, the kind of main street that gets photographed rather than just used, and a median house price that came in at approximately $1,530,000 as of September 2025, which followed a 7.3% decline from the prior year, according to current Southern Highlands market data. Bowral is not a financial reset for most Australians. The entry price puts it in the same territory as many Sydney suburbs, meaning the move only works for buyers who've already built substantial equity over decades in a premium market, Inner West, North Shore, Eastern Suburb. and a trading location for lifestyle rather than trading cost for space. For that buyer specifically, the recent correction is a genuine opening. Her sales volumes are recovering, open home attendance is rising, and vendor expectations have been reset downward from where they sat 12 months ago. For everyone outside that narrow category, Boral remains a real and beautiful town, but aspirational rather than accessible. An hour inland from Coffs Harbour, sitting up on the escarpment above the Bellinger Valley with a population under 1,500 people, one functioning main street, and a World Heritage listed Rainforest National Park directly on the doorstep. Dorrigo is the town that most people looking at regional NSW never seriously consider, and the median house price of approximately $635,000 is a direct consequence of that. This is not a town for everyone, and that's worth stating plainly rather than softening. Services are limited. The amenity is entirely natural. Walks through coachwood and fern, waterfalls, mornings cold and clear above the cloud line. If the version of retirement you're imagining requires a cinema, a gym, and a Thai restaurant open past 8 p.m, Dorrigo will frustrate you inside of 12 months. But if what you're actually after is space, silence, and access to a landscape so specific that people who've lived inside it describe it as irreplaceable, this is the cheapest entry point on this entire list to something that can't be recreated elsewhere. The NSW Valuer General's 2025 report flagged Northern NSW as an area of continuing buyer interest, which is the measured way of saying that the remote workers, the equity-rich buyers from Brisbane and Sydney, and the people who've been watching this corridor for years are arriving. The rainforest escarpment towns between Dorrigo and the plateau represent one of the last genuinely underpriced natural landscapes in the country, and once that cohort finds them fully, the window, the $635,000 figure, currently represents, will close. Berry demands honesty up front because the price demands it. 2 hours south of Sydney on the Princes Highway, just off the coast road with the ocean 20 minutes in one direction and National Park in the other, Berry offers a heritage main street, an independent bookshop, a bakery. People drive an hour each way to visit, and a Saturday farmers market that functions as the social centre of the week. The median house price sits at approximately $1,650,000, and that's not a misprint. Berry is not an affordable alternative to Sydney. What it is a lifestyle purchase at lifestyle prices, and the buyers who make it work are the ones who've held a Sydney property long enough to carry the equity required, who are trading financial pressure for a different kind of life at roughly the same dollar figure. The transaction makes sense for that person. It doesn't make sense as a cost reduction exercise. The question worth sitting with before committing to Berry is whether you're buying the town itself or buying the idea of it, because those two things produce genuinely different outcome. Plenty of people arrive and love it completely and never look back. Others find that a small, genuinely tight-knit community where anonymity is limited and everyone knows the outline of your situation wasn't quite what the lifestyle article prepared them for. An hour south of Sydney on the Illawarra coast, Thirroul faces north toward the water with the escarpment rising directly behind the town and a direct train line connecting it to Central Station, and it carries a history worth knowing. D.H. Lawrence lived here in 1922 and wrote a novel about it, which tells you something about how long this particular place has been making an impression on people who arrive and find they don't want to leave. The median house price sits at approximately $1,725,000, the highest figure on this list, and that price reflects something real rather than speculative. This is not retirement in the simplifying, equity-freeing sense. What the rule offers is a particular proposition for a particular buyer. Equity-rich, still occasionally connected to Sydney professionally, wanting to be at the beach by 7 a.m. and in the CBD by 10 a.m. when required, without either the city's density or its cost becoming permanent features of daily life. The infrastructure to support that life genuinely exists here in a way it doesn't in most of the towns on this list. For buyers who've spent 15 years in a Sydney suburb, now valued at $2 million, and want to downshift without cutting the cord entirely, Thirroul delivers that transition intact, and they might even come out ahead on the numbers. Services come first. Mudgee, Goulburn and the Bega Valley all have functioning hospitals nearby. Dorrigo and Bellingen don't, and the drive time to emergency care becomes the most consequential number on any retirement spreadsheet. Before committing, drive to the nearest ED and time it at 7 p.m. on a weeknight. Check vacancy rates next. Several of these markets sit below 1.5%, which strongly favours landlord. If you're planning to rent before buying, expect a tight competitive transition. Don't assume it'll be easy. Watch Infrastructure Signal. The NSW Valuer General's 2025 report explicitly named Western and Northern NSW as markets with continued movement. Mudgee, the Bellingen-Dorrigo corridor, and Goulburn, with its positioning between Sydney and Canberra, all appear in that framing consistently. Don't underestimate climate. Burrell and Goulburn deliver genuine winters, frost and ice, not mild cold, requiring real adjustment for anyone from the coast. Mudgee runs cold, but opens into long, dry summers. The northern towns are warm, but genuinely wet. Match conditions to your own preferences before signing anything. Finally, use real numbers. Take actual equity. Subtract stamp duty and legal fees. Always add your super and expected income, then work backward from a budget that eliminates financial anxiety. For most buyers, that math holds up most clearly in Goulburn, Bega, Mudgee and Dorrigo. Berry, Thirroul and Bowral are lifestyle-first propositions that depend on a specific equity position. Neither is wrong, but knowing which one you're actually in makes the difference between a good move and an expensive mistake. There's a question underneath this entire video that hasn't been answered directly because there isn't a clean answer to it. Whether a life with less financial pressure, further from the city, in a town where people recognise you at the hardware store actually constitutes a better life than the one you currently have. That's not a data question, and no spreadsheet resolves it. The regret Sandra carries isn't about having moved, it's about not knowing the town well enough before she moved to it. If you want to track this further, the towns in regional NSW that are moving now, the ones to approach carefully, and what the migration and pricing data looks like heading into 2027. Subscribe and stay with it. The numbers are still shifting, the patterns are still developing, and there's more in here worth covering.